The smell hits you first. Metal and rust, mingling with something chemical you can't quite place. You're standing in the grocery store aisle, staring at price tags that don't make sense anymore. Coffee's jumped 23% since summer. A can of green beans, 30 cents more than last week. The woman next to you is loading her cart like she knows something you don't, and maybe she does. Hey there. Before we get into this, I want you to know something. This isn't just for you. It's for everyone at your table. Your kids, your parents, whoever depends on you being ready when things get unpredictable. And listen, if this information helps you sleep a little better at night, do me a favor and share it with someone you care about. They'll thank you later. Let me tell you what's happening right now, today, as I'm recording this. The global food supply chain isn't broken, but it's not exactly whole either. Supply chain challenges have intensified in 2025 due to geopolitical tensions, climate-related disruptions, and lingering effects from the pandemic. Trade restrictions and tariffs are making it harder for companies to source materials at stable prices. Extreme weather events continue to disrupt transportation routes and agricultural production. And here's what that means for your wallet. Food prices in August 2025 were 3.2% higher than in August 2024. That's not some abstract economic indicator. That's real money coming out of your checking account every single week. But it gets more specific, more personal. Coffee prices have jumped more than 20% in the past year. In just 4 months of 2025, the federal government collected an additional $1.5 billion in tariffs on food items. That's a 647% increase compared to 2024. Every single penny of that gets passed to you. I know what you're thinking. You've heard this before. Food prices go up, they come down, it's always something. But let me share something that should make you pause. It takes around 6 months for prices to increase after supply chain disruptions, and another 6 months for prices to go down once disruptions are resolved. We're in the middle of that cycle right now, and December 5th isn't some magical deadline. It's strategic timing before the winter months hit and before any potential regulatory changes that could impact availability. So let's talk about what you actually need. Not theories, not doom scenarios, just practical, affordable foods that will be there when you need them. Food enough 1. White rice. There's a reason rice has fed more humans throughout history than almost any other food. It's cheap, it stores forever, and your body knows what to do with it. A 25-pound bag of white rice costs about $15 right now. That's roughly 40,000 calories for less than the price of 2 takeout meals. 1 cup of rice and beans provides about 300 calories, 10 grams of protein, and 9.3 grams of fiber. Here's what most people don't know. White rice, when stored properly, can last 30 years or more. Not brown rice. Brown rice has oils that go rancid after a year or two. But white rice? It's essentially immortal if you keep it dry and away from oxygen. I learned this the hard way. Years ago, I bought 50 pounds of brown rice because it was healthier. 18 months later, I opened a container and it smelled like old paint thinner. Threw the whole thing out. Now I stick with white rice and supplement with multivitamins. The key is storage. You don't need fancy equipment. Food-grade 5-gallon buckets. You can get them from bakeries sometimes for free, or buy them at hardware stores for about $5. Add some oxygen absorbers, seal them tight, and stick them somewhere cool and dark. Your garage, your basement, under your bed if you have to. White rice is your foundation. It's boring, sure, but boring keeps you alive when interesting isn't an option. Food 2, dried beans. If rice is your foundation, beans are your walls. Together, they create what nutritionists call a complete protein, all the amino acids your body needs to function. Black beans alone provide 15 grams of protein per cup, plus iron, magnesium, and folate. When properly stored in airtight containers, dried beans can last 10 years or longer. I keep pinto beans, black beans, and kidney beans. They cook the same way, but they taste different enough that you won't go crazy eating them every day. A 1-pound bag costs about $1.50, and that'll give you 7 or 8 servings. Here's something they don't tell you at the store. Older beans take longer to cook, but they're still perfectly good. If your beans have been sitting for 5 years, just add an extra 30 minutes to the cooking time and maybe a pinch of baking soda to help them soften up. Last winter, when that ice storm knocked out power for 4 days across the Midwest, my neighbor came knocking. She had a gas stove and I had beans and rice. We cooked together, shared the meal with 3 other families on the block. Sometimes preparedness isn't about hoarding. It's about having enough to share when everyone's scared. Food. 3. Honey. This one's different. Honey isn't just food. It's medicine, preservative, and energy source all rolled into one golden jar. Pure honey never expires. Never. Archaeologists have found honey in ancient Egyptian tombs thousands of years old that's still perfectly edible. The reason? Low moisture content and natural acidity create an environment where bacteria simply can't survive. A 2-pound jar costs about $12. That might seem expensive compared to rice and beans, but think of it as insurance. Honey has been shown to have antioxidant, antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, and wound-healing properties. Got a cut? Apply honey as a dressing to burns or wounds. The hydrogen peroxide it releases cleans wounds and soothes inflammation. Sore throat? A spoonful of honey works better than most cough syrups, and it's safe for everyone except infants under 1 year old. I keep 3 jars minimum, 1 in the kitchen for daily use, 1 in my emergency kit, 1 in the car. Last year, my kid scraped his knee bed on the playground. Deep gravel rash, dirt embedded. We cleaned it with water, applied honey, covered it with a bandage. 3 days later, you could barely tell it happened. No infection, minimal scarring. During emergencies, when you're stressed and not sleeping well, honey's nutrients produce a calming effect. That mental clarity might be the difference between making good decisions and panic decisions. But here's what really makes honey valuable in a survival situation. It's pure, concentrated energy. 2 tablespoons give you about 120 calories of fast-acting carbohydrates. When you're exhausted from hauling water or securing your home or whatever crisis demands, honey hits your bloodstream quick and gets you moving again. Honey contains polyphenols and flavonoids that act as antioxidants, which means it's not empty calories. It's functional nutrition. Your immune system needs those compounds, especially when you're under stress and eating less variety than normal. Ancient cultures understood this. Egyptians offered honey to their deities and used it for embalming the dead because of its antibacterial properties. They mixed it into remedies for everything from wounds to digestive issues. Traditional Chinese medicine has used honey for respiratory health and wound healing for thousands of years. Now, be smart about which honey you buy. Raw, unfiltered honey is better than the ultra-processed stuff in squeeze bottles shaped like bears. Raw honey still has pollen and propolis. That's the waxy substance bees make that has additional antifungal and antibacterial properties. It costs a bit more, but you're getting actual therapeutic value. Store it at room temperature. Don't refrigerate it or it'll crystallize. If it does crystallize, don't panic. Just warm the jar gently in hot water and it'll return to liquid. That crystallization actually proves it's real honey, not corn syrup pretending to be honey. During the Depression, my grandmother kept a jar of honey in the cupboard at all times. She said it was like having a pharmacy and a pantry in one container. Turns out, she was absolutely right. Food 4. Canned vegetables and meats. I know what you're thinking. Canned food is for doomsday preppers with bunkers. But hear me out. Low-acid canned foods like meats, vegetables, and soups can last 2 to 5 years when properly stored, and many remain safe well beyond that. Canned food recovered from a steamboat that sunk in 1865 was tested in 1968. Chemists found no microbial growth and determined it was safe to eat. The protein and calcium levels remained high. Right now, with food prices climbing, canned goods are your hedge against inflation. That can of green beans you buy today for $1.20, it'll still cost $1.20 when you eat it in 2 years. Even if fresh green beans have doubled in price. My strategy? Every grocery trip, I buy an extra $10 of canned goods. Canned chicken, tuna, salmon, vegetables, whatever's on sale. Canned chicken provides 70 grams of protein per can and has 0 carbs. Canned vegetables maintain most of their vitamin and mineral content. Store them somewhere between 50 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Check for rust, dents, or swelling before you eat them. Rotate your stock, first in, first out. The oldest cans get used first. New cans go to the back. Here's a real scenario. Job loss, unexpected medical bills, car breakdown, whatever. Your income drops to 0 for a month while you figure things out. That stockpile of canned goods, that's not just food. That's dignity. That's not having to choose between eating and paying rent. Food 5. Salt. Salt seems too simple, too obvious. But think about this. Every civilization that ever existed needed salt. Wars have been fought over salt. Roman soldiers were paid in salt. That's where the word salary comes from. A 3-pound container costs $2 and will last indefinitely. Salt stores well long-term and is essential for food preservation and preparation. Beyond preservation, your body needs sodium to function. In an emergency situation where you're working physically hard, hauling water, chopping wood, whatever, you're sweating out salt that needs to be replaced. Without it, you get muscle cramps, confusion, nausea. I learned this during a summer power outage. The temperature hit 98 degrees, no air conditioning for 3 days. I was drinking water constantly but felt worse and worse, dizzy, weak. My wife mixed a 1/4 teaspoon of salt in a glass of water and made me drink it. 15 minutes later, I felt human again. Salt also lets you preserve fresh food if your freezer goes out. Got meat that's about to spoil? Salt cure it. Vegetables wilting? Pickle them. It's knowledge our grandparents had that we've forgotten. Stock up on iodized salt. Your thyroid needs that iodine. And maybe grab some canning salt too if you're thinking about preservation. Food. 6. Peanut butter. This one's going to sound almost too simple. Peanut butter. The same stuff that's been sitting in your pantry since you made sandwiches for the kids last Tuesday. But stay with me here, because what I'm about to tell you might change how you think about this ordinary jar. A 40-ounce jar of peanut butter costs about $6. Inside that jar, roughly 6,400 calories. That's 3 full days of food for most adults. And we're not talking about surviving. We're talking about actually functioning, staying strong, keeping your mind clear. The nutritional profile is almost perfect for emergency situations. You're getting protein, about 7 grams per 2 tablespoon serving. You're getting healthy fats that your brain desperately needs when you're under stress. You're getting calories that actually stick with you, not the kind that leave you hungry and shaky 30 minutes later. But here's what really sets peanut butter apart from almost every other protein source. It doesn't need refrigeration. Not before you open it, not after. Room temperature, 60 degrees, 80 degrees, doesn't matter. An unopened jar lasts 2 years easily, often longer. I've personally eaten peanut butter that was 3 years old, and honestly, couldn't tell the difference. Compare that to meat. Even canned meat needs to be rotated more carefully, and once you open it, you've got maybe a week before it goes bad. Fresh meat? Forget about it. Power goes out, you've got hours before your freezer starts warming up and everything you've stored becomes a biohazard. Peanut butter just sits there, waiting. Patient. Ready? There's another piece to this that doesn't get talked about enough. The psychological component of emergency food. When everything's falling apart, when the news is bad and the power's out and nobody knows what's happening next, people need comfort. They need familiar. A peanut butter sandwich tastes like childhood. It tastes like normalcy. It tastes like everything's going to be okay. I learned this during a week-long power outage 3 winters ago. Ice storm knocked down power lines across half the county. No heat, no lights, temperatures dropping into the 20s at night. We were burning through our emergency candles, rationing the camping stove fuel, trying to keep the house above 50 degrees. My daughter, she was 7 then, started getting that look. You know the one. Wide eyes, too quiet, picking at her food. The stress was getting to her. She didn't understand why nothing was working, why we couldn't just go to a restaurant, why her tablet was dead and staying dead. My wife made her a peanut butter and honey sandwich on crackers. Simple, nothing special, but my daughter took one bite and her whole face relaxed. She ate the whole thing, asked for another. That night she slept through for the first time in 3 days. It wasn't magic, it was just familiar, safe, known. That's what peanut butter gives you in an emergency. Not just calories and protein, though those matter plenty, but a taste of normal life when nothing else feels normal. Now, practical matters. I keep 6 jars minimum in my pantry. Not because I'm expecting the world to end, but because life happens with surprising regularity. Power outages, unexpected guests, sick days when nobody has the energy to cook. Paycheck coming late. Peanut butter handles all of it without complaint. Storage is dead simple, cool, dry place. Doesn't have to be fancy. Kitchen cupboard works fine. I date each jar with a permanent marker when I buy it. Older jars toward the front. Use what you have, replace what you use. The stockpile stays fresh because it's constantly moving. One thing to watch for, separation is normal. That layer of oil on top? Just stir it back in. Doesn't mean it's gone bad, just means it's real peanut butter without a bunch of stabilizers and chemicals. For people dealing with peanut allergies in the family, don't panic. Almond butter works the same way. Sunflower seed butter, too. Same storage time, same nutritional benefits, same psychological comfort. Just check those labels carefully, and maybe keep them in different places so there's no confusion. Here's my final pitch on peanut butter. $6. 1 jar? Potentially 3 days of food. No special storage requirements, no cooking needed. Kids will actually eat it. You can spread it on crackers, mix it with honey, eat it straight off a spoon if you have to. $6 for peace of mind. That might be the best investment you make this month. Let me give you some real numbers. This isn't theoretical, this is what it actually costs to get started. 25 pounds of white rice, $15. 5 pounds each of 3 types of dried beans, $23. 2 pounds of honey, $12. 20 cans of vegetables and meats, $25. 3 pounds of salt, $2. 2 40-ounce jars of peanut butter, $12. Total, $89. That's it. Less than $100 to start building real food security for your family. That $89 buys you probably 40,000 calories of rice alone, plus protein from beans, nutrition from vegetables, medicine from honey, and the mental peace of knowing you've taken action. And here's what nobody talks about. That $100 investment appreciates. Food prices are rising. The rice you buy today for $15 might cost $20 next year. You're not just buying food, you're locking in today's prices for tomorrow's meals. But let me be clear about something. This isn't about hoarding. This isn't about panic buying or clearing shelves so your neighbors can't eat. This is about being smart, being prepared, and building up gradually over time. The best approach? Add 1 or 2 extra items every grocery trip. This week, grab an extra bag of rice. Next week, some beans. The week after, a few cans of vegetables. Within a few months, you'll have a solid foundation without breaking your budget. You know what really keeps me up at night? It's not the big disasters. It's the small cascading failures that nobody sees coming. A factory fire in Thailand disrupts baby formula supplies across America for 6 months. A drought in California pushes lettuce prices up 40%. A cyber attack on a meat processing company creates shortages at every grocery store in your state. These things actually happened in the last few years. They're not hypothetical. Rising food costs, climate-related disruptions, and supply chain vulnerabilities mean millions across the US, Canada, and Mexico are struggling to access affordable, nutritious food. Fresh produce prices could go up 5.4% in the short term due to tariffs. I'm not trying to scare you, I'm trying to wake you up to reality. The food system you depend on is more fragile than it looks. Just-in-time delivery means grocery stores keep about 3 days of inventory. If trucks stop rolling for any reason, fuel shortage, strike, natural disaster, those shelves empty fast. I saw this during the early pandemic, remember? Stores ran out of basic staples within hours. Flour, rice, canned goods, gone. People were panicking, fighting over toilet paper. The folks who didn't panic, the ones who already had a stockpile. They weren't part of the problem. They were quietly at home, eating from their pantry, staying out of crowded stores. Having food is only half the equation. You need to store it properly and actually use it. Temperature matters. High temperatures over 100 degrees Fahrenheit are harmful to canned goods. Find the coolest, driest spot in your home. Basement, closet, under the stairs. It doesn't have to be fancy. Label everything with the purchase date. Seriously, grab a permanent marker and write it on the container. Your memory isn't as good as you think it is. Rotate your stock. Use the oldest items first. Replace them with fresh ones. This keeps everything moving so nothing goes bad. It also means you're actually eating your emergency food during normal times, which serves 2 purposes. You stay familiar with how to prepare it, and you find out what your family actually likes. My wife hated the first brand of canned chicken we tried. Tasted weird. Texture was off. Good thing we found that out during a regular dinner and not during an actual emergency. Now we stick with a different brand that everyone tolerates. Why am I suggesting December 5th specifically? A few reasons. First, winter. Cold weather increases caloric needs. Your body burns more energy just staying warm. Having extra food on hand when heating bills spike and everyone's stuck indoors makes sense. Second, potential regulatory changes. The government has introduced new food regulations that might take effect in coming months, which could impact pricing and availability of certain items. Third, it's before the holiday chaos. December gets expensive fast. Gifts, travel, family obligations. Building your stockpile now means you're not competing with holiday shoppers and seasonal price increases. Fourth, it gives you time. 3 weeks is enough to make deliberate, smart purchases without rushing or overspending. But honestly, any time is better than no time. If you read this on December 10th and haven't started, start then. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Someone's going to ask, what about fruits and vegetables, fresh protein, all that good stuff? Of course, fresh is better when you can get it. This stockpile isn't meant to replace your regular diet. It's a safety net, a backup plan, a buffer against uncertainty. In an ideal world, you're eating fresh salads and grilled chicken every night. In the real world, sometimes you need food that doesn't require electricity, that won't spoil if the power goes out. That costs less than what's at the store today. The canned vegetables aren't gourmet, but they prevent scurvy. The rice and beans aren't exciting, but they keep you alive and functioning. The honey might save you a trip to urgent care when someone gets hurt. Think of it this way. Your stockpile is like insurance. You pay the premium, hoping you never need the payout, but you sleep better knowing it's there. I started prepping after I lost my job during the 2008 recession. Savings dried up fast. We had maybe 3 days of food in the house when the panic hit. my wife was pregnant with our first kid. I remember standing in front of the empty pantry, realizing how completely unprepared I was for even a minor disruption. Never again, I promised myself. Now, we could eat for 3 months without going to a store. Not comfortably, not with variety, but we wouldn't starve. More importantly, we wouldn't have to panic. We wouldn't have to compete with desperate crowds. We wouldn't have to choose between dignity and survival. That peace of mind is worth more than the money I've spent on rice and beans. And here's what surprised me. Once I started building that stockpile, other areas of my life got more stable too. Having emergency food led to having emergency cash. Having emergency cash led to having a plan for job loss, medical emergencies, car repairs. It's like one act of preparation unlocks something in your brain that says, oh, I can control this. I can prepare for this. You're not powerless. You're not at the mercy of supply chains and corporate decisions and government policies. You can take action. You can prepare. You can protect the people who depend on you. So here's what I want you to do. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Take $89. If you don't have $89 in one go, take 20. Take 10. Take whatever you can spare. Go buy rice. Buy beans. Buy a jar of honey. Put them somewhere safe and cool. Label them with today's date. Then, in a month, in a year, in 5 years, when something happens, because something always happens eventually, you'll have options. You'll have food. You'll have taken care of your family. And that feeling, that quiet confidence of knowing you're ready, that's worth more than any price tag.